Hey class, in today's lesson we're going to look at how to divide rational numbers. But before we do that, I want to discuss where negative signs are in a rational number and how that affects its value. So rational numbers can have negative signs in different places. So let's take a look at the example, the first example at the top of the page. It says, are the rational numbers 12 over negative 4, negative 12 over 4, and negative parentheses 12 over 4 equivalent or equal? Well, if they all simplified the same value, then they're equal. So let's try that. So 12 over negative 4 is 12 divided by negative 4, which is negative 3. Negative 12 over 4, or negative 12 divided by 4, is negative 3. And then negative 12 over 4, or 12 divided by 4, is 3, so it's negative 3. As you can see, all of those rational numbers came out to be negative 3, so they are all equal. So that means we can have a negative sign in the denominator, the numerator, or right on the outside of the fraction, and it does not affect our answer. They are all equal. So we can put our negative sign in any one of those spots. All right, so now I want you to try to create two equivalent fractions or expressions for the quotient below. So 14 over negative 7. I want you to write that in two other ways. Pause the video and give that a try. Now let's look at how to divide rational numbers. So when we divide rational numbers, the rules are the same as when we divide integers. So if we have a positive divided by a positive, it's a positive. If we have a negative divided by a negative, it's a positive, right? If the signs are the same, it's positive. And then if we have a positive divided by a negative, it's a negative. And if we have a negative divided by a positive, it's a negative. So if the signs are the same, the quotient is positive. If the signs are different, then the quotient or answer is negative. So same rules as multiplying, and then the same rules as integers as well. So hopefully we're familiar with it. Let's look at the first three examples. It says divide the rational numbers, simplify if needed. So number one, we have negative 2 8/10 divided by negative 4. So I can already see 28 divided by 4. So there's going to be a 7 in my answer, but I'm going to write it out. So I'm going to do 2.8 divided by 4. So I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 4 go into 2? 0. How many times? 4 times 0 is 0. So 4. How many times does 4 go into 28? 7. 4 times 7 is 28. Subtract and we get 0. And our decimal place in our quotient is just going to go straight right up. So 0 and 7/10. And it was a negative divided by a negative. So my answer is positive. So positive 0 and 7/10. Number two, we have our negative on the outside, which means our answer is just going to stay a negative like we discussed before. All right, so if you remember up at the top, the negative on the outside, our answer just stayed negative. It's basically just asking you for the opposite of your answer, so you leave the negative there. And now we have 5 and 5/10 divided by 5/10. So again, I can write out my division. So 5 and 5/10 divided by 0 and 5/10. Okay, I have a decimal on the outside, so I need to move it to the right until I have a whole number. And since I moved it to the right once on the outside number, I'm going to move it to the right once on the inside number. So that means in my quotient or my answer, my decimal will go right there. I just bring it up after that. So now we ask ourselves, how many times does 5 go into 5 once? Or you can see it as how many times does 5 go into 55? That's 11 times. And then 11 times 5 is 55. You subtract and you get 0. So 11.0 or just 11. So your final answer, negative 11. All right, if we look at number 3, now we have mixed numbers. So we have 5 1/3 divided by negative 1 1/2. We have to first make these improper. So I'm going to make 5 1/3 improper by doing 3 times 5 is 15, plus the 1 on top is 16 over 3. And then divided by, I'm going to make the negative 1 1/2 improper. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 on top, plus the 1 on top is 3, and then keep the denominator. So now we have 16/3 divided by negative 3/2. And when we divide fractions, we have to multiply by the reciprocal. So we were going to change this to multiplying by the reciprocal. So we keep the 16/3, we change the division to multiplication, and the reciprocal of 3/2 is 2/3, right? We flip it, we switch the numerator and the denominator. Now we just follow our rules for multiplying fractions. So first, it's a positive times a negative, so my answer will be negative. And then I can multiply across. 16 times 2 is 32, and 3 times 3 is 9. That is an improper fraction, so we want to make it a mixed number. So don't forget that negative, put that negative there. And 9 goes into 32 3 times. And 3 times 9 is 27, so with 5 left over out of 9. So your final answer on number 3 is negative 3 5/9. So a lot of steps on that one. You have to make everything improper, and then you have to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, so you try number 1 through 3 on your screen, and then hit play when you're ready to check your answers. All right, take a moment, check your answers with my answers. If they differ at all, look it through my work and check it with your work. Now we're going to look at what happens when we have something called a complex fraction. A complex fraction is a fraction that has a fraction in its numerator, denominator, or both. So number 1, we have fractions in the numerator and the denominator, but keep in mind this fraction bar right here still just means divide. So this problem is really just asking us to do 7/10 divided by negative 1/5. So now we're just dividing fractions. So you have to keep the first, change division to multiplication, and flip the second or make it the reciprocal. So now we have 7/10 times negative 5 over 1. You can simplify now, or you can simplify at the end. If you're not simplifying, you would just do 7 times 5 is 35, and 10 times 1 is 10, and then just simplify. If you would like to simplify now, 10 and 5 are both divisible by 5, so 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So now I can multiply my numerators. 7 times 1 is 7, and 2 times 1 is 2, and it was a positive divided by a negative, so my answer will be negative. And now I just need to make that improper fraction a mixed number. So 2 goes into 7 3 whole times with 1 out of 2 left over, so negative 3 1/2. All right, number 2, we have 75 divided by negative 1/5. So I'm just going to rewrite it, 75 divided by negative 1/5. And now I'm just going to change that division to multiplication, multiplying the reciprocal. So 75 over 1 times negative 5 over 1. And unfortunately, I cannot cross simplify here. So I'm going to do 75 times 5, which I'm going to do over on the side. 375 over 1, and it was a positive divided by a negative, so my answer is negative. And any number divided by 1 is just itself, so we have negative 375. All right, now I want you to try number 1 and 2 under the Got It section, and then hit play when you're ready to check your answers. All right, take a moment. Check your answer with my answer. Hold on, it's still popping up on the screen. There it goes. Number 2 is negative 5/8. Took a little bit to load. All right, if you need to, pause the video to check your work a little bit further. And we're going to move on to some word problems. All right, for the first example in word problems, it said over 5 months, Carlos wrote 5 checks for a total of $323.75 to pay for his cable TV service. His cable bill is the same amount each month. What was the change in Carlos' bank account each month to pay for cable? So they gave us a total, and I'm looking for each month. So I'm going to divide, and since he wrote checks, he's spending the money. It's going to be negative $323.75 divided by the 5 months to get how much for each month. So now I can write my division. Divided by 5. 5, let's get right to 32. 5 can go into 32 6 times, and we get 30. Subtract, you get 2, bring down the 3. 5 goes into 23 4 times. Subtract, get 3. I'm going to run out of room. 5 goes into 37. Got to put my decimal, bring that up. Don't forget about that. 5 goes into 37 7 times to get 35. Subtract, we get 2. Bring down the 5. And 5 goes into 25 5 times. And that's no remainder left. So each month, Carlos paid or spent $64. $64.75 on cable. All right, you try the next word problem on your own and hit play when you're ready to check your answer. All right, check your answers with mine. Should be the person descended 3.8 feet per minute, or negative 3.8 feet per minute. The long division there was a little cumbersome, so you probably had to multiply to check and keep going. So I apologize for that. All right, last word problem for an example, and then you'll try, and then you're good to go. It says Maya wants to divide a 3/4 pound box of trail mix into small bags. Each bag will hold 1/12 a pound of trail mix. How many bags of trail mix can Maya fill? Okay, so she wants to divide the 3/4 pound box. So she has a total of 3/4 of a pound of trail mix, and she wants to put it into bags of 1/12. So we're going to divide by 1/12. So now we just need to divide the fractions. So when we divide fractions, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So 3/4 times 12 over 1. You can multiply and then simplify, or you can simplify first, and you get 9 bags of trail mix. So at 3/4 a pound, she can make 9 bags of trail mix. All right, you try this. All right, check your answers with my answer and check your work if you need to. And that's dividing rational numbers. Have a good day.